Hello, this is Will from Tinkerworks, and I'm going to be going over today how I got Cura to work with the Craftbot Flow IDEX. Now, I've seen a fair amount of people looking for this online, and I think I've dialed in on exactly why that is. And I believe it has something to do with the fact that Craftware Firm, the slicer, is utterly terrible. It's so difficult to get anything to work well in Craftware if it's not a simple basic print. So if you want to do anything fancy, basically the answer is no. So, as you might imagine, the lack of just settings flying around online for the Craftbot Flow IDEX is a pretty good indicator. It's a giant pain to get it working with the Craftbot Flow IDEX. There's just weird stuff, and I'm going to be going over some of those weird things. This extruder one is a very simple basic profile. This is what I standardly use. You can change the layer height if you want. I get really good results from this. Of course, you also got to change the temps for your material, but this is what I generally run with. So I would copy this profile, so the extruder one from just the regular Craftbot Flow IDEX, or I think I call it dual. I'd grab this one and I'd copy it to the other ones. I just don't have the time to pre-package that up really nicely. And this one over here, this looks like a slightly different version of the one that I just did on the other one. But let's get on to the first weird thing. First weird thing is probably the most important. If you want to print with just extruder 2, so you want to completely not use extruder 1, you have to use extruder 1 for a skirt. I have no idea why that is, but if you don't do that, if you don't have some printing move with extruder 1 before extruder 2, apparently that is just terrible, and the Craftbot Flow IDEX won't put up with that nonsense. Next thing, if you want to fill the build volume, pro tip, don't. This first 15 or 25 millimeters is thin air. It's off to the left side, and it is off the left side of the build plate. So, no man's land. And again, another 15 or 20 millimeters in from the left is where the right extruder stops being able to extrude. So, if you have a dual material print, you are limited to, if I remember correctly, 350 millimeters, which is a far cry from the 450 that the machine appears to have going into it, which severely disappointed me. When I got it, it was touted as 450 millimeters in the X. Lo and behold, I get the machine here, and I only get 350. Now, it's set to 395 just because of all that shenaniganry of one extruder can print closer over here, the other extruder can print closer over here, and it's offset, so if you go all the way to the edge, you fall off a cliff. So that's the whole deal there. Do not expect at all that you can get that number. If you want dual material, you can do 350. If you're single material, you can get a little bit more, but not a lot. Next on the agenda has got to be this stuff right here. Now, if we look down here, we have all of our settings, and these are different modes. Now, the keen among you will notice that we have a 4 supports version and a normal version, but as far as I can tell, it's the same exact command, so the difference would be later in the slicing process. They don't have any sort of formal difference in here, which would have been nice if they had. if they had something pre-set up, but they don't. Now, the next thing that you're going to notice is that there's no preheating commands in the top here, and that's because you have to let Cura handle that completely. You cannot handle that at all. It's a simple matter of the fact, a limitation within Cura currently in the firmware, the level that I'm in of Cura, only allows commands for one temperature setting. So it can set itself just fine, but I can't figure out where the code is to get it to grab the second material. So that's something to watch out for in this firmware. And if we look at machine settings, as soon as we get into the parallel and the mirror, that changes, and I have this beautiful thing that heats them both at the same time. Now, you might notice that the X width is copy and pasted from the website. That is because I did zero experimenting with whether or not the X width for mirror and parallel is actually accurate. So mileage may vary. You may have to make this bigger or smaller depending on your experimentation. Now, there is one note that I have on that. In my experience, it looks like it's in the right spot. When you print in the regular mode of the Craftbot Flow, it is very clearly in the wrong spot. You can see it's nudged over to the left. It's very obvious that something's going on there. You put it in the middle and it prints slightly to the left. So very obvious. And these two look like they're right, so I didn't go barking up that tree. And that's pretty much all I have. Other than one quick note, if you're changing between filaments, extruders, that's going to be an issue. You're doing a lot of changes mid-print. It's going to be funny. You're going to have to tune a profile for that. It's just, the nozzles don't like being parked for whatever reason, and they tend to clog while they're parked. And while the machine can detect that and tries to purge itself, it's just not a foolproof process. So what I did and what they do in Craftware is they leave the parked extruder at the full temperature, and that's what it should be over here. Yeah, standby temperature, and it's over 200 degrees Celsius. That's what I would recommend. That's what I've gotten to be successful in my experience. I've also had a lot of problems with my machine, so again, your mileage may vary. Now, I hope this has been at all helpful. I have the link in the description to the 3 profiles I showed, the IDEX 2, the parallel, and the mirror. Now, the backup mode, I have not figured out how to get working yet. It's just a matter of I haven't tried. I do have the command in there if you want to play around with that, but that is 100% up to you. Now, I hope you have a great day, and I wish you luck in your journey of 3D printing.